I'm sure you've heard this a million times. It's the kind of thing you see on a motivational poster, the favorite line of productivity gurus. It's supposed to make us feel like time is the great equalizer, the one resource we all get in the exact same amount.
But what if that whole idea kind of misses the point? See, the real question isn't how many hours we have in a day, it's how many of those hours are actually ours to control.
Okay, so first things first. This feeling is way more than just being busy. This is something else entirely. So we need to get a really clear definition of what we mean by time poverty. So the official term is time poverty. It's all about the lack of discretionary time. That's the time you actually get to choose what to do with, your real free time, after everything else is taken care of. Think of it like a form of poverty, but instead of measuring it in dollars and cents, you measure it in minutes and hours. To really get it, researchers break our day down into 3 main buckets. You've got necessary time. That's the stuff you have to do to survive, like sleeping and eating. Then there's contracted time, which is basically your paid job or school. And finally, committed time. That's all the unpaid work that still has to get done, like chores, childcare, you name it.
And when you add all of that up, the necessary, the contracted, and the committed, well, just look at what's left over. For so many of us, that little slice of discretionary time, the time for relaxing, for hobbies, for just connecting with people, it gets squeezed down to almost nothing.
But here's the absolute crucial point. This time squeeze doesn't hit everyone the same way, not even close. And that brings us to what we could call the great time divide.
So who's feeling this the most? Well, the data is crystal clear. Time poverty hits certain groups way harder than others. Women, parents, low-income workers, and students who have to juggle work and school. These are the people who consistently have the least amount of discretionary time. A huge driver behind the gender gap in particular is this concept called the second shift. It's this incredible double burden where many women finish a full day of paid work, only to come home and start a whole second, unpaid job of cooking, cleaning, and caregiving. And get this imbalance starts shockingly early. I mean, between the ages of just 10 and 14, girls are already spending 50% more time on household chores than boys are. It sets a pattern that all too often lasts a lifetime. And for parents, the numbers are just as stark. If you have kids under 15 at home, you're looking at, on average, 14 fewer hours of free time a week. That's like losing 2 full 8-hour workdays of personal time every single week. Money and time are also, unsurprisingly, totally connected. If you have a higher income, you can often literally buy time by hiring help with cleaning or cooking. But for low-income workers, it's often the opposite. They face a kind of time tax. For instance, they spend on average 120 extra minutes a week just commuting. So what's the big deal? Well, having no free time isn't just an inconvenience. It has serious, tangible consequences. And that brings us to the hidden costs of time poverty. It creates this dangerous domino effect, especially on our health. When you're constantly time poor, what's the first stuff to get cut? Usually it's things like cooking a healthy meal, exercising, or making a preventative doctor's appointment. It's no surprise that this leads directly to poor health outcomes down the line. And the stats here are pretty sobering. One survey found that a staggering 1 in 4 American women has actually delayed getting healthcare specifically because they didn't have enough free time. And in education, time poverty is a massive barrier to success. For students who have to work long hours, their grades are more likely to suffer, they might take fewer classes, and they have lower retention rates. And this hits minority students especially hard. Okay, so it's a deep, systemic problem with some really serious costs. But can we actually do anything about it? In our final section, let's explore some possible paths toward what you might call time affluence. This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? If time poverty is a structural problem, it's probably going to need structural solutions. So how can we, as a society, start to give people their time back? Well, researchers are looking at some really big ideas. Things like designing 15-minute cities to slash commute times, or exploring a 32-hour work week, or implementing really robust paid parental leave. Even improving basic infrastructure, like access to water and electricity, can save people countless hours of unpaid labor. But it's not quite that simple. Here's a fascinating and complicated finding from the research.
In several studies, when you offer time-poor people a choice between a time-saving service and its cash equivalent, they very often choose the cash, even when they desperately need the time.
And that leads us to the final question I want to leave you with. Maybe the goal isn't just about carving out more free time from our busy schedules. Maybe the real challenge is about gaining more autonomy, more control over all of our time. The time we spend working, the time we spend on chores, and our discretionary time. It's a different way to think about the problem, isn't it? Definitely something to chew on.